Hello, flower friends. This is Jen, and I've had kind of a trying last week in the freelancer department. And so I actually have been reflecting about all the different things I've learned and really like hard lessons that I've learned about working with freelancers and also about like really optimizing that freelancer relationship so that you're both getting that equal energy exchange. If you guys have listened to the podcast for a while, I want to have freelancers work for me that really enjoy working for me, that feel valued, that I also feel valued. I feel like they're having fun, they're learning. I really like to help teach freelancers to be more successful florists. I mean, we talk about business stuff often when I have people freelance for me. It's like I want to create that in the culture of here. But in doing that over the years, I feel like sometimes it has been to my detriment. So I want to talk about these hard things that I've learned. And maybe you've ran into one of these or two of these, or maybe you would run into this in the future. And hopefully one of these tidbits will help you navigate a very tricky situations. So the first thing that I want to talk about is initial interactions tell you a lot. How somebody communicates with you early, how they show up when they're here is so indicative of what that relationship is going to be like. In my experience, I have had some younger freelancers, younger comparatively to me, and I have struggled with some of them, especially a couple of them that really felt like their schedule, their priorities, and them committing to me that they were coming or doing something didn't have the weight or value that I thought it did. And so I'd give somebody the benefit of the doubt. They wouldn't come to meet me initially, like they said they were, and they would cancel really last minute and say that they would come at a later date. Or they'd say they'd come and then you'd get a text, hey, something happened and blah, blah, blah. They were already showing me that they were unreliable or not really good at keeping their word. But I often would be like, oh my God, I'm to the point I'm really overwhelmed. I really need the help. And like I'll maybe this is just a circumstance that extenuating circumstances happen, blah, blah, blah. It was so a sign that they did not care. They were young and very carefree and did things on their own time and way and didn't essentially care on how, as a business owner, it impacted you. And so they would say that they're going to come. And one specific freelancer was like, supposed to be there at 10 o'clock, didn't show up. Then I text them at like 11, hey, where are you? No text back. Then it's 1 o'clock. I'm like, hey, where are you? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to be able to make it today. That was their excuse. Okay. Anything going on? Here's their excuse to defend themselves. Nothing. Then a week later, then they show up a few times and do the work. And then a week later, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it today. My boyfriend needs to go buy a car. And then I was like, you can't do that when you're done with work? What are you talking about? And so if you have a gut feeling when you meet them, it's probably correct, you guys. You, you're naturally intuitive enough to see the signs that something is not going to end well. Follow your gut. You never need help that much that you will have a headache down the road, which will make you even more stressed out and really just so, are you kidding me that I'm having to deal with this? And then it weighs on you because it's never fun to have those really direct conversations, especially in today's world where a lot of people are super sensitive. A lot of people openly or more open than they ever would talk about their mental health issues. So that brings me to point number 2. These people are not your family. And I have treated so many freelancers like their family. And inevitably, many of those situations bit me in the butt. I help support people, and especially as a certified life coach. And this has gone on for 20 years of me having freelancers. So it is a constant theme that I really want to help people. I mental health issues or people struggling with family dynamics or personal dynamics. It is always been something because of everything that I've gone through that I've always really wanted to help people. But inevitably, it often was to the detriment of my business. They would then think that they're family, so you owe them for what they're doing, or they can have absolute craziness going on, and that is just acceptable, that to bring that into your business, which is never feels good, honestly, for either person. But I've literally several times had freelancers have complete mental breakdowns because of whatever was going on in their life. And especially one of them was a lot older and maybe at that point shouldn't have been working because they were, I think, in their 70s. But I always want to help people. I mean, I have Elaine. I absolutely love Elaine, you guys. She is like my adoptive mother. She is 86. And I several times she actually is part of my family. I invite her to every holiday at our house, but I also understand that I'm she is not here helping because I really need like all of those things done. I'm doing it because it is really nice to have a mother slash grandmother figure around. And I absolutely love her, even though she's a spicy little burrito sometimes. But I go into that relationship knowing what it is instead of going into other relationships thinking that because I know that she feels the same way that we are family. If she has a problem, I call people pretending to be her daughter and will help her because I genuinely want to help people. I genuinely am a person who cares about people and I want people to be better and succeed, and I want people to be happy. And I have gone through so many iterations of this with freelancers because of the sheer volume of time that I spent with them. And then I've turned out to be the bad guy because I'm just trying to make them aware of something that I've observed or my perspective on something and tried to help them. Literally tried to help them. And they didn't wanna help themselves. And so if you are spending 20 some hours a week with somebody, that's a lot, and it's really easy for somebody to become family, but they're really not, you guys, which totally sucks that this is what it is, but after so many times this happening where I've generally tried to help people, and inevitably, I felt taken advantage of. I felt like I tried to really help this person. I gave freely to this person on so many different occasions. And this isn't one person. This is multiple people that I have completely invested in and therefore also then became dependent on them. And then inevitably when things ended, it was to the detriment of my business because then I started really relying on a person who in several of these cases, I always knew they struggled and maybe it wasn't fair to place pressure or to have the expectations that I was having based on how they were positioning themselves, based on what they wanted to learn, based on what they were telling me. I should have followed my gut and been like, no, this is what I need help with and not beyond that. But it's sometimes hard to do that in the moment. And now I know that the relationships, when it comes to business, I need to treat them as much as possible like business relationships. Because when the lines become extremely blurred, there's multiple people that can feel hurt in the crossfire and so much undue stress. There's been several times that I've had to strategize in conversations how to just not have this person work for me anymore. And one of them resolved because of and COVID and not having people around and doing all those things was like my excuse for changing directions. And I've had it where I'm like, I need to be more profitable. So I can't be paying somebody, a premium wage and then do everything myself, right? I need to start doing more myself instead of paying somebody to do these things because I need to be more profitable. That is a really hard lesson, you guys. And so people can be your friends, but when it comes to the point where you're like, they feel like family, you might be in trouble. And I have realized that many times over. And as of recent, you really try to help someone, you really try to make somebody the best version of themselves, try to help them be successful, and that help was not wanted and was not received, and then you're the bad guy, and then you're in a really big pickle because you've placed so much emphasis on them helping because you wanted to give them money. You wanted to help them as well because they needed money. I needed the help. And it's just a really hard situation because then multiple people are invested, like my family is invested in them. And that has happened multiple times that my family's invested in this person now because I run a home-based business. All right. So the next thing that I want to talk about is you are running a business, not a sorority. I've also a multitude of time have had freelancers to freelancer dynamic that was not good. I actually recently found out I had a freelancer that didn't want to come here and didn't want to work because of their interactions with another person. And they didn't like working with this other person. And I have had it in the past multiple times where somebody's like, they, I found out later on that they made excuses that seemed appropriate at the time, but inevitably it was that person that they had a very troubled dynamic with was the reason why they didn't come back. Not that they didn't enjoy you, not that they didn't enjoy working for you. So I try to make sure that if there is beef, drama, whatever, we just talk about it right away. Talk about it right away. Don't let it stew because stewing inevitably doesn't help anybody. Just be honest and tell them that's the culture that you want. I want a culture of honesty in my studio. And that culture is super important to me because I don't want to be these passive aggressive people that can't talk about situations. And I don't want that in my studio. I want people to be like, that didn't feel good. That is, if you can get to a point when something doesn't feel good, even acknowledging or teaching your team to acknowledge that, that is a huge win. So think about everything can be casual, fuzzy, but I've had dynamics about smoking. I've had dynamics about vaping. I've had dynamics about music, about phone calls, people taking phone calls, just like the kind of music. It's just crazy. People are catty and we just need to be adults and work. And if that doesn't work for them, then you're not maybe the right place for them. All right. The next one. Not everyone cares about your business like you do. And not everybody realistically cares maybe even at all. Or if you have a really strong sense that they do, that can change in an instant. Nobody cares about your business more than you. So it is unrealistic to expect most freelancers to care deeply as the owner of a business does. They're there getting a paycheck the majority of the times. I have had people work for me that surely worked for me because they wanted to learn from me. They liked energy. Honestly, I've had a bunch that because I am super calm, super chill, and try to not have things feel stressful. I mean, I honestly feel like some of my freelancers I maybe tolerated and others different didn't. And I had a multitude of times over the years where somebody was like, they work for you because nobody else would put up with their shit. And when I look back, even like 10 years ago, that it was probably very true. And you're not here to be a business owner that literally is just putting up with everybody's shit because that doesn't feel good. So you need to make sure that you understand going in, not everyone is going to care. Then that goes into the next thing is making sure expectations are painfully clear. And this does not always land well as well, depending on how you deliver it, depending on the context of it. I have had several times, several freelance or based situations where I've gone in and I've done the math and I've looked at how long it's taking for them to do something, especially comparatively. And I'm like, holy shit, this is taking an epic amount of time. Or they've done something. I had one person, like every time I would have to go in and fix something on their personals, or I'd have to fix something on whatever they were making. And after a while of doing that and giving them the feedback, like and even doing a mock up and then it looking completely different. And I'm just like, I don't know. I always give someone the benefit of the doubt. Did they not understand me? Did they not hear me? Did what happened? And then just ask them, you know what? Like it weirdly doesn't look like the mock up I did. What made you change directions from the mock-up? Because maybe they're looking at something differently. So even though trying to be painfully clear on expectations, I also give people the benefit of the doubt that there could be something that we're not on the same page about. I try to give the benefit of the doubt on everything because I can't assume you can't assume that somebody had ill intentions. You can't assume that somebody was trying to piss you off. And people's brains often go to, they're assuming the worst. I never assume the worst. I always want to assume there was something that just didn't click. Sometimes I got to a point where I'm like, I've explained this thing 5 times and they're still not getting it. So maybe they're not the right person. And I've gone through and I've explained like where things should be from a timeline perspective. And I've done it in such a kind way, but some people can't take any criticism. Otherwise, it just eats at their heart. And criticism is hard. Even constructive criticism, which is what I try to deliver, can be really hard for people because they immediately go to all the old wounds in their whole entire life and they think you're attacking them. They think that you're this bad person because you're questioning their ability. I'm not questioning your ability. I'm just saying that I thought that this was supposed to be this way. I thought I laid out the expectations that this should be this way. And to me, it doesn't look like it. So I'm just trying to understand why. That's it. I'm just trying to understand. So making sure, even when it comes to going into a situation, one thing is I know and I have mental timelines of what it should take to execute boutonnieres and corsages. I know what it should take to make a simple vase arrangement. But I need to at least share, hey, I'm hoping that this takes like 30 minutes to complete this, just so that we stay on task. That's it. And then that's where this next big lesson is: make examples extremely helpful. Photos, samples, mock-ups, actual examples, so there's not any confusion. You want to have as little confusion in your studio as possible. I know some florists who have created SOPs, so standard operating procedures. This is what this looks like. This is what this looks like. This is what that looks like. This is how you cut the stems. This is how you bag boutonnieres. Like, all those things could be put in an SOP document. It is something that takes some time, but if you're not having to repeat yourself, it could be super helpful. Then in the next kind of iteration of that, common sense is not common. What is makes sense to you and how you have done things for a million years might not be how somebody else does things. Or it would make sense that this is the way something was done. It doesn't make sense the same way to everybody. To me, I don't like to make vase arrangements unless they are hand tied with a bind wire so that they stay in the water and there's no stems. But when I tell somebody to make a vase arrangement and I don't tell them that I want them to make a hand tied bouquet and then bind wire it, that's my fault. Because it's common sense to me to try to put it together like that, but that's common sense because I have seen, just like when a recent episode of this or incident of this happened, like a bunch of the flowers weren't in water because of moving and shifting freely in a vase. So I have learned to combat that, but that doesn't mean that person has. Common sense is not the same for everybody. And also, like, how you've been doing something, you can't have any expectations that this person, if they went to flower school, if they own their own business, whatever, they do it the same way. Do you know how many times, even like with boutonnieres, how many different ways people wrap boutonnieres? If they wrap them at all, some people think green tape only is okay. And I like that makes me cringe. I literally, like, my body reacts when I think about giving someone a boutonniere with just green tape on it, but that's normal to somebody else. So you need to know that just because you do something some way does not mean that everybody does. And that is completely okay. You need to make sure that you're just specific about what you want. All right. Next one. Time expectations need to be spelled out. I try to be, especially now that I live farther away, hey, I just trust people that they're going to show up in the early morning and help get the work done. But without clearly laying that out, over the years, I have had people, all of a sudden they show up at 11 o'clock and they still want to leave at their normal time. Or they've dinked around and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, and like it's late. Didn't text me, didn't anything. So I should say, hey, everybody, we're starting the day at 9. So be ready to work at 9. And that is completely different than just being like, yeah, we just got to get all the work done. And if you could get here in the morning, well, the morning is subjective. So just making sure you're really specific and also asking, because all of a sudden I had some sisters were working for me and they were like, oh, well, we need to leave at 3. And they got there at 10 or something. And I was like, I thought I had you for a full day. A full day to me is 8 hours, but not to them. So that's those really explaining. And so I just ask, what does a full day look like to you? Because that's what I'm really looking for help. I've had people come down for 3 hours and I'm like, that is not worth my time to have somebody to deal with, showing somebody around the farm, especially for 3 hours. That is a waste. I don't want to do that. So having those clear expectations of time is so helpful. Then this goes into the next. You could have the most talented florist that when you look at their Instagram, you're like, oh my God, their work is beautiful. But they might be terrible about showing up. Reliability to me matters more than raw talent. A very talented flaky person is often the most exhausting thing in your studio because then they have opinions about everything. And then you don't know if they're going to show up or they're going to have an attitude about things. So making sure that you really look at, are you reliable? You know what? I would even ask them, I'm really looking for somebody who's reliable. How would you say that would you describe yourself as reliable? And just that's it. Would you describe yourself as being reliable? Very easy to ask. All right, the next one is your energy sets the tone, but it cannot fix everything. I have over the years had freelancers walk in the door that everything sucks. Their energy is nervous. Their energy is sad. Their energy is victim. Their energy is spiraling. Their energy, frankly, I've had a bunch of them like manicky. And I totally get people are going through things, but that's the energy and the tone, and it can bring everything down in your studio, you guys. So you being positive and organized really helps, but it does not magically make somebody responsible and feel good for everybody else around them. I have had so many dynamics, and it's because of that person's energy. Basically, it's like they've peed all over your cornflakes in the morning. And it has set the tone that everybody feels like shit, and that energy doesn't help anybody. So that brings me to the next, which some people are just not the right fit, and that is okay. Not every freelancer is meant for your business, your pace, your standards, and you being okay with that is probably one of the biggest things as a business owner to consider a win. Not trying to fix everyone to make everybody work. You can't fit a square peg in a round hole. And often, especially when you're desperate, people try to do that and it just never works out. So it's okay if somebody's not the right fit for you. It doesn't make you a bad business owner. And it actually, frankly, doesn't even make them a bad freelancer. It just means that they just weren't the freelancer for you. They might work great with somebody else. You need to make that part of the culture that it's okay. It's okay that somebody doesn't work out. It's okay that this didn't work out. And once you do that and create a culture of, you know what, we just want everything to feel good around here. We want to get the work done and we want happy people. We want a happy vibe. Because honestly, when you have a happy vibe, you have happier flowers in your studio and happier arrangements, happier, just everything feels better. And you deserve that. So, thank you so much for listening, flower friends. Go out, have people that work for you, that genuinely enjoy working for you, add value to them as much as you can, and make sure that they're adding value for you. Thank you so much for listening, flower friend, and you have an amazing flower-filled day.